Hi, I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. I'm in one of my winterport yards at the moment, and as promised, I'm going to look at a slightly different way of I've approached feeding in this yard with different equipment. Now, this yard is mostly got bucket feeders on for those that needed the feeding. So we've got the odd 1 gallon or 2 gallon buckets on the hives. But this yard also, I left honey supers on, and only recently took them off. In fact, it was only this weekend I took them off. And this left brood chambers relatively light, very light, and so I could either leave honey supers on, which I did in some cases, or I also looked at other ways of feeding up the bees very quickly. So instead of just a 1 gallon bucket on the hive, what I did was I put multiple, or instead of 1 or 2 gallon buckets, I put multiple 1 gallon buckets on. And the way we go about that is like this. Putting these gallon buckets directly onto the frames. And because they're contained in an upper super, they're kept relatively warm. So this sugar syrup is kept very warm relative to outside the hive, and it's right next to the frames. And so even closer than these are separated by about 1 inch, these are separated by 1/4 inch, right from the frames. And what I want to do is see how quickly they've managed to empty some of these buckets. And let's have a look. There's 4 in here, is a bit tight. And that is very impressive. It's about half full. Stick them down. I've been taking those buckets down very nicely, and so I will just top these feeds up, but I have very high confidence that these hives will get filled up in plenty of time. So what I'm going to do is get to work on it. It's hard to do. I can't do it with one hand holding the camera. I'm going to have to get on with feeding. So I'm going to go around all of these hives that have received feed. I mean, some of the hives, like that one there, is heavy enough already. This one's got some bucket feeders on in the white super above. You see the near one is okay, but again the white super has multiple buckets in, and some don't have any extra feeders on, like the one with all the rocks on it there. No extra feeders on there. Hives are already heavy enough. So I'll check them out and see where we are. Just how close we are. This feels about half to 2/3 full. Not always easy to open. Yeah, the one thing about it, putting them in the hive, is they put all sorts of propolis and that sort of thing on them. So, a little more than half of that used, a little less than half. They feel pretty good. I'm actually not going to top them all up. I'll just let them work their way through. I'll top this one up. More important is to get those single ones filled up. Let me get it round. So I've only got 4 containers of syrup left here on this trip, so I want to make sure I get something in all of them. Okay, so I know I've got about 2 gallons left in here, which will keep them going nicely. But I want to get round. Well, let's see how the other ones feel. See how this one feels. This also has 3 or 4 buckets in it. I put 3 in here. See how that one. About half full. About half full. Even down. Okay. So, considering it's only been on there for about 4 days, they've got through about half the buckets, which is good. So next week, I'll get back in here, feed again, and that will have meant in a week they'll have taken down about 3 gallons or 4 gallons or very close to it, and that's almost enough, but it gives me time to fill them up again, and this means that they're going to be well on course to be ready for the winter without the stress. I don't like to feed them as rapidly, but it's a good trial, because this way I get to a better idea of just how far we can push it in terms of leaving honey supers on the hive, take them off early and feed more slowly. This is 2 gallon bucket, again about half full. I'm just filling up nicely. Less than half full. It's only half a gallon left in here. These are the priority ones to fill up. I've only got that much area to feed from, whereas with three bucket feeders on, they can feed from 3 times that area. With the 4, they can feed on 4 times that area. Hence, the food can go into the hive much, much faster that way. And it's all about timing it to make sure that it's on in sufficient time so that they can go through the winter safely. Okay, it's working well. Okay, let's get the other single buckets fed. It's quite amazing how it varies, how quickly a hive can take down food. This has got less than half a gallon in. Those others have 2/3 of 2 gallons, about a gallon and a bit. and still. But it just depends on how much brood has emerged and how much room there is for them to backfill. And a little bit of syrup left. That can go in the open feeder. The open feeders, you can't put too much in them at this time of year because it needs to be able to be warmed up by the bees. I mean by the sun. If it gets too cold, the bees aren't going to be able to feed on it. So now we're at this stage. I'm going to feed them about a couple of gallons at a time. I could put 20 gallons in this, but it just wouldn't get eaten. But a bit of open feeding will help distribute food amongst the colonies that don't have a feeder on, and it will also just keep things turning over in the hive, in my view, a little bit better. So that's a different way of feeding with buckets, both outside the hive and inside the hive, both of which work pretty well. But if you really need to get food in substantial quantities in quickly, feed them inside the hive by adding an upper layer, put your buckets in and then close it up. It also eliminates robbing. So it is a very good way of feeding when robbing is a particular issue. I'm Peter Cowan, the Bee Whisperer. See you next time.